Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Consideration of any changes, additions, or removal to the agenda?
No, sir.
Approved minutes from the previous meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Comments from citizens?
Can you get your mic?
Better? I thought we were sharing. I see none. FEMA update.
Just a brief update on where we are there. Still working with today. Actually, we finished formulating a couple of what they call projects, which encompasses some of the damages and costs that the town has incurred. FEMA basically pulls specific projects and aspects of the flood damages and puts them together, puts those costs together and puts them into what they call a project. And then that is sent to their control hub for processing, which is run through different layers that we work with. So majority of the village has been sent through, like a lot of the debris removal. That was one of the big ones. The one that we are working on capturing right now is the temporary repair costs for the wastewater plant. So those are sent off. Hope to start seeing some of the funding return to us probably within 60 to 90 days. That will start, but at least now that we have those, we've impressed upon them that capturing the costs, especially what we put up for the wastewater plant, is crucial to get that money back sooner than later. So they understand that. So that's really where we are now. I don't want to say we're in a holding pattern, but it's really a lot of clerical work that's being done right now, trying to capture all of the costs. I'm sure people have seen the work that's going on in the cemetery with the drain and the pipe that's up there. That thankfully is being captured as a continuation of the damage from to the spillway. So that is being completely covered, which is a positive, because that, reared its head 3 or 4 months after the fact. But we were able to tie that in because it was a direct cause and effect from debris those pipes, or that whole drainage system is made up of 2-foot sections of clay pipe that literally blew apart. And then finally, when it blew apart enough, it started seeping into the graves in the ground. So that'll be tied up into one big project.
Yeah.
So again, keep you abreast of the situation, but kind of, no news right now other than just more clerical and admin stuff.
How did the wastewater plant fare during the busy holiday week?
Very well.
Great.
Functioned with no issues. We still have one of the other ditches that is functioning, but we were having an issue with part of our effluent was still picking up some, rocks and silt in it, which is to be expected. So we were going to we had Minosh, who is the vac truck service, and M&M online for last week to go in and continue to clear out some of, basically they lower a bobcat into the ditch and push, the material, which is, some of the influent as well as the grit and grime that's left in there, and they suck it up and truck it off site. After some talk last week, the plant was running so well, we didn't want to kind of kick the dog during a busy holiday week and have something go awry. So we pushed it off, and they're actually going to do it tomorrow. So, but the plant handled everything. He knows there was a solid amount of people in town, and we had no hiccups whatsoever. So that's was a positive there.
Yeah, good question, Justin. Thank you. Thank you, Brendan. Allocation review and possibly approve rate reduction due to flood, motel and home, 112 South.
So this is a request for the Timber Inn. Is obviously, as we know, was damaged during the flooding, is in the process of finalizing the FEMA buyout. That project is hopefully coming to an end. But obviously the water, there's been no occupancy at the motel for much of the summer. There is just currently the owners are residing on the second floor of the motel in the apartment. So they're asking for obviously a reduction in the rate for the water. This would be for the wastewater. My recommendation is that the board approve a reduction to a one-family residential house retroactive to July 1st.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
You made the motion? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yes, I'll make the
I
motion.
second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
All right.
Did you do that, Glenn?
Yeah. No, I kind of like people did that.
B, remove 2-room allocation to go from a 5-bedroom to a 3-bedroom lot.
So this is just exactly what it is requesting. It's the property at 81 High Street. It was originally approved for a 5-bedroom allocation. They want to relinquish 2 of those bedrooms, which would bring it to a 3-bedroom allocation. And I would recommend that the board approve that at this point.
So move.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Department head reports.
I did not get Ron's. Joe has been out on medical leave. I can update you that the plant is running, is running up to specs and operating as it should.
There's a backup there for him. There is a backup there.
For him?
For him.
Yeah, we have the 2, Chris Strong and Seth McLaughlin. They're both operators there. So they're running the plant very well at this point. Ron Tarbell is actually head of DPW. So he kind of oversees operations overall. So Ron's involved as well, but things have been running fantastic. Well, Joe's been out. Hopefully he gets back soon.
Mr. McNamara, can I inquire about the bridge right by the fire station?
Sure.
I'm worried about that becoming an issue.
Oh, it's an issue.
Yeah. So are there steps being made? Is VTrans going to help with that? What's going on with that?
So that bridge obviously was a substantial issue during July when it flooded. The size of that, box is entirely too small for what it takes off of the mountain. We had, our first concern was not only the bridge, but just below it, that bank. Basically, if you walk behind the fire station, there is only about 6 feet
Yeah,
of land before it gets to the fire station. It's not a lot. I mean, it's literally, if we had another major event, it could take the back of that fire station, which is a whole other discussion. So we're working with the state. State has been very reluctant to let us riprap that bank. We went back down after last Monday, not this, when the last close call we had, and looked at it, and we're going to try and work with them to armor it in a different way. The reason they won't let us riprap it, I'm not 100% clear on, to be honest with you. It's kind of been an evasive issue. But to your point about the bridge, long story short is that yes, VTrans has pretty much taken ownership of that bridge. The fact that it's in the village, in the town, it's quote unquote considered a village bridge, or the town owns it. They are taking some ownership of it and are going to replace it. Will that be
V-Trans is going to what?
going to replace that bridge? There will be a cost sharing on our end. I have no doubt.
So a lot of people probably didn't even know that was a bridge,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. And I'm unsure how they're going to fix it without disrupting the river, dredging it, doing whatever needs to be done to make that a passable river. My question is, if we have all these parameters on what businesses and residents need to do in this town to, make sure that we're flood resistant and proof in the future, and we can't lay riprap to try to save a fire department, is a little strange to me. And I'd like that to be noted.
You and me both. So there are different options. So you've heard me speak before about the emergency watershed program that the spillways in the dam spillways were approved for, as was the fire, that section. It's the Fed's USDA. It's a 75-25 match. So the work that's being done down there is out for engineering right now. If it's not rip-wrapped, it's almost, they can do something that it basically looks like boxes with steel, stone, but almost like steel fencing on them, and they lay them down so the vegetation comes through, but they're bolted into place and held there, and they're 15 feet long by 7 feet wide, and they're placed.
I've seen them
on
somewhere.
down. I forget exactly what they're called, but that's an option. But as for the bridge, that's going to be a challenge, because they're going to try and tie it into when they pave the village, which is not this year but next year.
So we have a whole nother year to at least to go.
And that, not only do they have to raise that bridge, but they've got to make it wider.
It's almost like a speed bump, the size of the thing.
It is. So
It's
now,
going to be so hard to raise that bridge.
and also if you,
Yeah. Sorry,
are they good? Thank you, because I couldn't remember what they were called.
Gavians.
Gavians. Yeah.
G-A-V-I-O-N.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
Sorry, I'm amazing.
No, perfect.
17 you was talking about.
But they, my concern, part of it is obviously when they do the bridge, the elevation is going to come up, which will directly affect the fire station.
Yeah, how are they going to pull out? So the easiest thing would probably be to dredge that. Would that work? Can they do that?
There's not much pitch there.
Yeah.
It's pretty flat. It's just a bad
It's just
situation.
a bad design.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the train station, the railroad company, did rebuild that whole hill and put in the same size culvert, right?
Thereabouts, yes.
So we'll get that water again.
Then the
Potentially.
one above that it was, in my estimation, the cause of the railroad going in the first place, because they enlarged it and let a greater flow down through.
And that's what washed it out, you think?
Well, it
And
started
what happened to
taking
that
some.
what happened to that top drain, that culvert right now? Did they rebuild that post July 11th?
The one that's on the hill, the underpass?
The one behind the underpass.
That was
No, ours
That
is
was
still
before.
intact there.
Yeah.
But obviously the debris coming through there plugged up that bridge, which then comes over the road.
Right.
So it's going to be an engineering project, but thankfully the, V-Trans has, and they took ownership because it's part of basically one of their major transportation highways. So that, and they also looked at 100. So, but that right there is obviously one of their delivery routes. So they've got to make sure that everything's good.
Does that bridge have a number?
I think it does have a
It's
number.
referred to as the Pond Street Bridge. Is what it doesn't have a specific state number. I'm not sure, but it's listed with FEMA as the Pond Street Bridge.
That was
All right.
that was my question. Thanks,
Perfect.
Brendan.
aged receivables.
You have your the receivables with you. The packet's a little bit bigger, obviously, because the water sewer bills just went out. So everything that has not been paid, including current bills, is listed. Just a touch on the bill amount that is over 120 days. It's at 29,010. Within the last 12, 15 days, we have entered into payment agreements with accounts that will clear up in the I'll give you 15,000 of that. So we have payment agreements that should be cleared. One of the major ones that was in the neighborhood of 7,000 will be paid within 3 months is the agreement. Some of the other ones are a little longer. So that will take care of, close to half of that, but still working, plugging away on. We haven't shut anything off yet.
And most of these are just from this past bill.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's a credit line on the far right column.
Mm-hmm.
What does that include?
I believe that's just for if an account, for example, had overpaid or they wrote, there was an adjustment made. It may have a credit on it.
Credit, like when we let somebody go.
Exactly. So then we'll go back and it may just show a credit for the future.
Okay.
Other business?
Do we have all the definitions from the planning commission actively updated?
The planning and zoning has them, yes.
And there are current
It
updated?
is current, as I believe they updated some definitions probably a month and a half ago. We have those updated.
I know they've been holding special meetings and
Yep, there is a meeting Thursday. But the definition, we had a meeting in, I think it was the end of November, if it serves me correct, that some of the definitions were updated, and yes, planning and zoning has those.
great. Thank you. Thanks.
Municipal manager update.
Just very brief. We already touched on, wastewater plant functioned fine this weekend. A lot of traffic in town. Town was very busy, even though, the skiing I was up there, it was confined. Let's put it that way. Lower Cup to Heaven's Gate. That's where I stuck. Traffic in town did not, they started our traffic control with, people positioned, had a few small issue with people as normally would be expected trying to go up Doug Road. Put a stop to that. Then, 3:30, 4 o'clock, had officer stationed at the access road at the stoplight. Everything seemed to, flow pretty well.
How was Shaw's? How was that intersection?
So that
Getting in and
was, I strategically leave things in my office, so I have to come back to get them on the weekend. But don't tell anybody that. So I make the rounds through town, and I didn't think it was all that bad. I thought traffic flowed pretty well. There is a little bottleneck there because you have Shaw's and you have 100. It went pretty well, and to be honest with you, the only thing that really, in my opinion, seems to mess things up is when someone stops and it's like, oh yeah, go ahead. And they're trying to be nice and do the right thing, but it messes up the flow of traffic a little bit, especially when you have officers that are directing.
Now that you have Lemaire Square with more businesses
business in there. So, and there were a lot of people out walking. So, you stop at a crosswalk and it's not 1 or 2 people, but 12. So that backs things up. But that's the nature of the beast. It's not all that bad. So that, traffic seemed to flow pretty well through town. It was relatively quiet in terms of, any issues for New Year's. I know that we didn't, we had everything seemed to be, everybody was on their best behavior. in town. And, thankfully leaving town, you always get nervous that there's going to be, the Sundays, Mondays leaving town, I always have a pit in my stomach with, traffic and, fire calls, et cetera. We had the fire department was very busy with responding to smoke alarms and, gas smells on the mountain and, locally, but I think that's just influx in population. The ambulance was incredibly busy. But I think, to be honest with you, the ambulance has been ran and the whole holiday weekend, maybe one mutual aid call, which is very good.
That's great.
And that's a credit to the staffing and some of the, volunteer drivers that they have. So, and that's covering a big territory. So all in all, very good holiday week, and hopefully the snow keeps coming in for this weekend.
There you go. I went into Boston on December 26th for a 3-day meeting, and 128's never been so easy to drive. And I realized why. All the Massachusetts drivers were up here.
Yeah, there you go.
Set date for the next meeting, February 6th, 2024.
Sounds good.
Sign warrant orders. Everybody get those?
See right here. I think they should be completed.
Did you get those, Ray?
Probably not.
Do we need a possible executive session?
No, sir.
Move to adjourn.
None?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.